Okay, it is time to gear up for session two. As a reminder, session two is due next Tuesday night, June the 8th, no later than 11:55 p.m. Everything shuts down at 11:55 p.m. So make sure that it is done well before 11:54 because you don't want things to shut down on you. Session two's topics are culture and socialization, and these two probably go more hand in hand than some of the other topics that we've had to kind of mesh together for the summer semester. But culture and socialization kind of go into what makes you who you are, what makes you act the way you do, what makes you feel the way you do, what makes you think the way you do. So when we think about culture, we might think about our family, so our family culture, or the groups that we are a part of, and those people that we are always around and how they influence us. And sometimes they're individuals, and sometimes they're small groups, and sometimes they're very large groups. So if you think about examples of culture, you might look at the United States as a whole and look at the individual cultures that you see within regions of the United States, but then also within regions of an actual state. And culture can look different as far as the people go. So you may see different looking people having different cultures, or you just may see a whole area of a state or a whole area of the country have a type of culture. I like to think about like New Orleans and the culture of Mardi Gras. And so you may see there are different people. They look different, but they are all celebrating something that is similar to them. So that is an example of how the people within that culture look very different, but they're all held together by a common bond. And then sometimes we may see different people kind of categorized by the way they look, celebrating different cultures. And within culture, there are a lot of things that we're going to address with symbolic interactionism. And so those items that we attach to our culture, and that will be your journal activity. So talking about symbols, values, and norms. And if we're talking about the United States in that respect, we may think about the flag, the American flag, and how that has a very different meaning for some people. You might think what that American flag means for a soldier in the U.S. Army versus what it may mean to someone that lives in a country that has been war-torn, and it may mean something very different to someone that is patriotic, or someone that is not even from the United States. So that would be an example of a symbol. So symbol may mean a lot to you, but it might not mean anything to someone else. And also when we talk about things like handshakes or the peace sign, those things mean something very different all across the world. When we talk about values, we might talk about work ethic. And so how your value of work ethic might impact your relationship to society. So do we have this tendency to judge others based upon their work ethic? And so you see that your work ethic is likely taught within the culture that you were raised. And then that leads you to, the word is judging. I guess there's a better word that we could use for that. But essentially, stacking people up against each other based upon their work ethic. For norms, we might think about hairstyles or clothing. Think about what you see people wearing nowadays out on the streets in Walmart. And think about what you would have seen people wearing in the 1920s walking down a street or in a store. Those things are very different nowadays. And so we can see that symbols, values, and norms within our culture change pretty rapidly, just within a few decades. And then when we move into thinking about socialization, a lot of times our culture kind of goes hand in hand in how we socialize our children. And so you'll see in the journal at the great debate, nature versus nurture. So how children essentially are socialized into a society has a large impact, not only on the child themselves, but as society as a whole. And we are taught different things within the way that we are socialized. So we think about public schools being a large agent of socialization. So sorry. That's my nephew calling. We think about public schools being a large agent of socialization. And that's going to be one of your options for the writing activity is different agents of socialization. So what are these entities, these groups, these cultures that are actually forces on molding and shaping children in the way they act and the way they think? I hope that this will be interesting. I hope that it's going to be a really cool way for you to kind of reflect back on the culture that you were raised in, the way that you were socialized, and how that influenced your beliefs, your thought processes, the way that you size people up, I like to say. And maybe you were brought up a certain way to feel a certain way or think a certain thing, and now as you have gotten older, you're starting to doubt or question some of those thought processes and those beliefs, and that's an interesting place to be as well, to kind of look back on your upbringing and think, that might not really be the way that I should feel. So enjoy your time popping through chapters 2 and chapters 3. Please make sure that you are doing all of the quizzes for each one of those chapters, since this is the first week that you'll do 2 topics. So there are 7 quizzes for chapter 2, which involves culture. There are 8 quizzes for chapter 3, which involves socialization. Each one of those topics has a journal activity, and then your writing activity, you only choose one. So there's 2 topics that you can choose to write about. One deals with culture, one deals with socialization. You only have to choose one. So whichever one of those topics you are more interested in, or you want to dig a little deeper, doesn't matter to me. But just choose one. Don't overdo it. You do not have to do both writing activities. Let me know if you have any questions.